Hey guys, just a quick PSA here before moving on to the review proper. After recording and editing this video, I found out some disturbing facts about the Nintendo Switch version of Mr. Shifty. Apparently the game has a lot of technical issues when playing on Nintendo's new console, including frame drops and crashes. In addition to this, the response from the developers about the problems and potential fixes can be viewed as disrespectful and dismissive. I find this disappointing, as I really enjoyed the Steam version of the game and only encountered an issue with audio. I want to stress that the following review is for the PC Steam version only, and that if you were thinking of buying it for the Nintendo Switch, you may want to search for reviews that cover that in more detail. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy. The first thought I had when I picked up Mr. Shifty and started playing was, wow, this game looks a lot like Hotline Miami. The more I played though, the more I understood that while Mr. Shifty seems to take a lot of inspiration from the Hotline Miami series, it definitely moves in a different direction. I was pleasantly surprised by the differences in tone, gameplay and story that Mr. Shifty took, and happy to see that it's able to carve out its own identity while at the same time building on the legacy of tight controls and twitch gameplay that Hotline Miami popularized. Without a doubt, it's a game in its own right, and not simply a Hotline Miami clone. To begin with, Mr. Shifty takes itself a lot less seriously than Hotline Miami ever did. The tone of the writing and the story itself seems to be a parody of old action movies, while the on-screen violence is less gory as well. The writing is humorous and tends to poke fun at the cheesy action games we played as kids, and it does all this with a tongue-in-cheek self-awareness. The ridiculousness of the story and the violence is not lost on the developers, and it's clear that they're having a hell of a lot of fun with it. In the game, you play as the titular Mr. Shifty, a man tasked with stealing megaplutonium, that's right, megaplutonium, from a high-rise complex. Mr. Shifty is able to teleport short distances, which is where a lot of the gameplay variation will come from. In your mission to do so, the game continuously throws new enemy and environmental challenges at you, forcing you to use your shifting power in new, inventive ways. You control Mr. Shifty from a top-down perspective, die very easily, in fact after only one hit, and fight to make it through a number of colourful levels and stages. Enemies come in many different forms, many with guns but some with fists. But whereas Hotline Miami sees you using guns and weapons yourself, Mr. Shifty has you rely solely on your fists, melee weapons and your shifting powers to make it through the levels. In addition, Mr. Shifty offers up many more environmental puzzles and will have you platforming in a sense, using your shifting powers to bypass obstacles such as lasers, flames, and indeed even walls themselves. What I love about the gameplay in Mr. Shifty is that throughout the game's various levels, you're continuously thrown into new situations that force you to think outside the box. Whereas many arcade games can devolve into a repetitive affair, with you repeating the same actions over and over to defeat copy-paste enemies, Mr. Shifty's handcrafted levels and different enemy types create a game where every single engagement is different. It's beautifully constructed and results in some very satisfying moments. Special mention really needs to be paid towards the level design here, which allows for these types of innovative experiences. The combat itself is also extremely satisfying. It definitely feels weighted, with each teleport, punch and dodge making a distinctive sound and visual effect. There's the little touches as well. The way the game dampens the music when your character's shifting abilities are obstructed. The way some enemies get flung through windows and fall to their death. All these little puzzle pieces help to create combat that's ultra twitchy and ultra satisfying as well. It's manic, but not a matter of guesswork. More like a ballet of controlled chaos. The visuals in Mr. Shifty are beautiful as well. It's colourful and detailed, without being cluttered. In a game where being able to see and move around your environment is so important, having a landscape which is easy to digest visually, while at the same time being a pleasure to look at, is no small feat. On top of that, the soundtrack is infectious and heart-pounding, but not overbearing. Both these factors help situate you within the game itself, drawing you into the world and story. On the technical side of things, the game played better with a controller, but honestly I think that playing with a keyboard and mouse is fine, especially if that's what you're used to. The game performed well in terms of frames per second and load times, but there was a problem I was having with sound performance within the game. Strange popping sounds occurred when sound effects started and finished, and at times all sound was lost or muted and didn't reappear again for quite some time. It was very annoying and will unfortunately have an impact on the score. Any analysis of Mr. Shifty is likely to compare the game against Hotline Miami, but in reality, it's definitely a game in its own right, and should be thought of as a new distinct entry into the top-down Twitch genre. More than anything though, Mr. Shifty is a game that's all about having fun. It's fast-paced, tongue-in-cheek, and I loved it. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10.